Linda La Plante is one of the world's most successful crime writers. She's the author of 14 novels and has written for several TV series, including the highly acclaimed Prime Suspect.
Her latest thriller, Backlash, has just been released and is set in the London suburb of Hackney. I spoke to her from Manchester and asked her, given her very strong female leads that she always has, whether she had very strong female influences in her life.
Well, I had a very strong grandma, Gertrude. But, and my mother was she had an opinion. My mother was very opinionated, but I don't know if she was strong. I mean, I can remember her voice saying, "I'm going to tell you something, Linda, you should never have a fringe." Hello? But I don't know, she was more interested in football than she was in any of my career moves. But, and I can remember in the Melvin Bragg show, they asked her a question of where did they think the darkness came from? And my mother paused for a moment and then said, well, she was always a devil with a pair of scissors when she was a little girl. And you think, what? Excuse me? So I wasn't, I would say, surrounded by strong women at home. So I don't know where they came from. Unless you can say, when I actually did meet a policewoman who became Jane Tennyson in Prime Suspect, she was a very strong lady and had my entire attention from the moment I met her, and she fascinated me. So I suppose that is why Prime Suspect was so successful, because it was steered by a wonderful detective called Jackie Moulton.
So how old were you at the time?
30s, early 30s. I'd acted as a lot of strong characters, from Hedda Gabler to, I'd done Chekhov. And so the roles I'd played as an actress, I'm just thinking about this now, I haven't thought about this actually. But the roles I'd played as an actress were invariably very strong characters. Shakespeare, but I think, truthfully, it wasn't until I was actually working alongside a lady who had battled through from uniform to a very high rank as a detective in Scotland Yard did I realise what she had come across, the discrimination she'd suffered. I never discovered any or had any problems with discrimination as an actress, and none really as a writer. But when I met her and she explained things that had happened in her career, I found it absolutely fascinating.
So it sounds like, in a way, you became a feminist without necessarily shouting it from the rooftops.
Yes, absolutely. I think, so often you're a feminist, but you don't really have actually got it written on a T-shirt. Yes, I'm a feminist. And I'm sure that in the build-up to writing about strong women, if I'd felt discrimination, I would have definitely had the bottle to argue about it. But I never had. But at the same time, I do believe that there is slight discrimination in the fact of male crime writers as opposed to female crime writers. And I was asked recently, did I find that male writers, male script writers, are given more kudos than females? And I'm starting to truthfully think that they are. Somehow I have not had the respect, considering the bulk of my work, that counterpart male scriptwriters have had.
Not wanting to turn this into a discussion about feminism, in Australia, though, we do have a female Prime Minister, the first ever, and she's deeply unpopular. Do you think women in politics and business are held a lot more accountable than men?
Yes, it doesn't happen in the opposite for the opposite sex. You don't have hordes of people trying desperately to unearth something in their past that is detrimental. I think she's doing a terrific job as Prime Minister. I think she's wonderful. Only now, actually, they're starting to, in this country, say, well, Maggie Thatcher was pretty good. And the extraordinary welter of love that's come across for Her Majesty for the Diamond Jubilee has proved that this lady is so special. And during the celebrations, you really felt quite humbled by the everyday person, millions of them, who line the streets in pouring rain. It was the most extraordinary, humbling event, because you thought there's good, decent people out there, but there's also that rat pack up at the top that have to chip away at anyone in a successful position, particularly politicians. And I feel very sorry that her people are not hearing her voice.
I'm really interested to know what you make of all this new technology, the Kindles, the iPads. Are you taking to it?
Truthfully, I think part of me is quite sad that the actual joy of going into a bookshop and going through all the books and the choices you have, and then I love the smell of books too, and I'm not somebody that bends them over, and so I treasure books, but at the same time, Kindle and the ability to read on a screen, to take it to the beach without getting set, is also a wonderful thing. And also, I was talking to a friend of mine who has been paralysed, and for her, the Kindle is just a lifesaver because it's so light, and just turning a page is so lightly done. So in many ways, this new development is a godsend to so many, but I hope we don't lose the bookshops. I think we might.
You've spoken, of course, as your life as an actress, that you made the transition to writing, and then you bring the characters so beautifully to life on the television screen. What is your real passion?
Writing. Writing opened such a wonderfully joyous world for me. It is solitary to a point, but it's fascinating. I'm still hoping and praying that my movie with Nicole Kidman on the last woman to hang in Australia, Jean Lee, we have hopefully very nearly got the finances ready to start shooting. It's always something that fascinates me. Now, I would never, ever have got into the life of Jean Lee if I hadn't seen the cover of a book written by the detectives that questioned her before and arrested her. And there was something in the cover of the book with the hooded hangman's noose that I thought, what on earth is that? It made me pick up the book. And I think that time I spend researching is always fascinating, because I'm not hemmed into a little room typing away for the rest of every hour of the day. I'm out talking to people, going to prisons, visiting victims, but visiting anyone that can help me with my storyline and my plot. And so then the writing becomes very... joyful is not quite the word, but it is very exciting for me.
That's Linda La Plante, who I spoke to earlier. She was such a lovely woman to talk to. And interesting, that project, Jean Lee, she's got Nicole Kidman starring. She's been working on it for years, and it looks like it's very, very close, so we should watch out for that one.
She's full of beans, isn't she?
Oh, she's gorgeous. Lots of opinions, like her mother.
Yes.